record. It's just you and me right now, Mrs. Tyros. So
Oh, really?
I have some updates, and I know that a lot of people watch our recordings. They can't always make this time. So we can have our discussion and I can give you the updates and kind of see if anyone else joins us as we go along.
All right. Well, we can, if you want to wait for a few minutes, we can wait. Hopefully they'll join.
Well, I will give a couple updates, and I guess first I have a question.
It was like 13, 14, 15 or something like that. It's Friday,
Yes.
Saturday.
So that's one of the things I want to talk about is I had to change the date for the virtual family reception. I had to change the date to Saturday, November 21st. So we're not going to be hosting anything on the 14th.
Okay.
And we're going to update the date to Saturday, November 21st. Hi, Mrs. Maloney. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Doing well.
I can actually do that today. I'm by myself in my office.
Oh, you're in an office. That must be nice, maybe?
Yes, with a mask almost 24/7 because I share an office, but she's gone to lunch. So yes, we've been back since the middle of July.
Oh, okay.
Very, very strict rules. I work for Tulare City School District in the district office. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Tyros was just telling me, Mrs. Tyros, I've got a couple other people coming in, but you were saying that the most recent newsletter did not have the link to our call today. Is that right?
Yes. Usually when you send the email, it has a link. Click here for the town hall meetings. But the last one, it's regarding the the family Zoom get together on November 21. Did not have that link. It just says we will have a town hall meeting for today.
Oh, well, thanks for the heads up. I'll make sure we correct that in the future.
Okay.
And because of that, we might be missing some people today. Hi, Ingrid.
Hello.
So I feel like I should just acknowledge that everyone might be a little still anxious about the election and that that's still happening and still undecided. So, thanks for coming today. I know that you have choices about how to spend your time, and we love talking with you, and there's a lot going on in the world. So we can talk a little bit about Sac State. We don't have to talk about the elections. I have a few updates for you and some resources I think would be good reminders for your students at this stage in the semester. And then we'll, of course, have time for questions. So the first thing I wanted to tell you is an update on our virtual family reception. So you may have seen in the recent email, we've had to change the date, unfortunately. So the date is being changed to Saturday, November 21st for our virtual family reception. And it's going to be from 3:30 to 5 via Zoom. And from 3:30 to 4, we're going to have a welcome from some leaders, including our vice provost, and the people in the provost office. They manage the academic side of the college. So all the professors and all the academic courses and things like that. So that would be a time to talk about virtual instruction. So we'll have a visit from our vice provost. Her name is Christine. She goes by Chris Miller. She's really great, really responsive. Our dean of students will join us, and our executive director of housing will join us for a welcome. So that'll be kind of a little more of a formal talk from 3:30 to 4, and then we'll dispense with the formalities and we'll kind of get into some more social situations on Zoom where we're going to facilitate discussions between you and other parents. We'll play a couple games, have some icebreakers, but we also want to have the conversation peppered with a couple real discussion items. Mostly we're going to be fun from 4 to 5, but we might have a couple moments for some serious discussion about what's going on with your students. And I was wondering if you had any ideas for anything that you would want to talk about with other strangers. I mean, they're going to be parents, right? People like on this Zoom who you see, but you don't necessarily know them. You all have students at Sac State. And some people, you know, you may not have an idea right away, but you can always post in the chat, or you can email me, and if there's anything that you think would be interesting to talk about, like your student moved away from home in the virtual semester and is perhaps not as communicative as you would like. Or maybe your student is living with you in this virtual year, and that's a tough transition. They're still not doing their dishes. Anyway, so we could think about that. So that's a big update for virtual family reception. The second update I wanted to give you is that, hi Jake, thanks for joining. The second update I wanted to give you is about housing. So on campus, you know, Sac State is still in a virtual semester in the spring, but our housing applications for spring are open. If you already applied, then you don't need to reapply. But if you have not applied and your student is considering moving on campus in the spring, then I did want to, you know, remind you that that's an option. And I'm going to put the link to housing applications in the chat here. So housing applications are open. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is a Thanksgiving food basket drive that Sac State does through ASI, and it's actually for our students. So if you've heard of the ASI food pantry, the food pantry exists for our students who may be food insecure or who may need a little help with food and non-perishable items. And they can still pick up their items for free every week during the virtual semester. So ASI is hosting a Thanksgiving food basket drive, and this is for our students and their families. And I'm going to put a link in the chat to an article that has the details. But basically, there are two ways that if you're interested in contributing, you can contribute. One is for people who are local in the Sacramento area. If you want to donate items in person, they have a list. They're trying to create Thanksgiving dinners or Thanksgiving meals for all families. And so they have a list of items. Thanksgiving food basket. Okay, that link to the article is in the chat. So they have a list of things they're looking for, and they'll be accepting donations in person next Thursday. Hi, Linda, thanks for joining. So they'll be accepting those donations on campus next Thursday from 9 a.m. to noon. If you happen to be, if you happen to live in the Sacramento region and you really like to go drop off in person. That's not practical for a lot of people. Ingrid, you're super far away. No one's driving to campus. So if you still want to contribute, you can donate by making a tax-deductible gift online through the University Foundation. The goal for fundraising is $5,250, and they're accepting donations through Friday, November 20th. So I'm going to post that link in the chat. And this is donations for food basket. And I'll just put these items here so you have the details. So if you're looking to deliver goods next Thursday, the 12th from 9 to noon, if you want to make a tax-deductible gift, the donation link is above. And that's for our students and their families, which is great. Can we believe we're already in November and we're so close to Thanksgiving? Seems strange, right? Okay, a couple services that I wanted to remind you about, which is good timing for your students, is the Career Center at Sac State and Student Health and Counseling. So I wanted to take a moment to just tour you through the Career Center website and highlight for you a couple of things that you may not know that we do, or your students may not know that we provide, that I think is really useful. I've been doing some research for a doctoral program I'm in about how students can maximize basically return on investment for their education. And there's so much research that shows an internship in their field really helps them get a higher salary right out of college. There's just a ton of research showing that. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the Career Center and just highlight some services for you. And an internship is not practical for everyone, but there are a ton of tools that are available. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And first, let's go over here. So this is the Career Center website, and you can follow along on your own computer, or you can look at my screen here. So the tools I'm going to take you on are in this menu here on the right. We're going to look at Handshake, Big Interview, what can I do with this major, and scheduling an appointment. So the first thing I want to point out is this tool Handshake. And if you haven't heard about Handshake, this is where students find jobs on campus at Sac State. They can also find jobs in the region. And they have to start by uploading a resume. And that can be a stopping point for a lot of students, creating that profile by uploading a resume. But it can be basic, and they don't have to even apply to anything. They could really upload a document that has just some bullet points that they need to fill in. And Handshake would be a good tool for them to kind of wade into the job process, the beginning of it. So Handshake is there. They're going to have to sign in for all of these items, use their single sign-on. The next tool I wanted to let you know about is called Big Interview. This is awesome. I'm always telling students, you should have an informational interview. And they say, oh, what's that? And we say, oh, practice interview with someone in your field. Well, Big Interview is basically, do you see something that says Big Interview, or are you still seeing the screen that says the Career Center? Okay, cool. So Big Interview is interview prep, actually. It's practice for students. And they can actually interact with real people on Big Interview, which is pretty cool. The next tool I want to tell you about is what can I do with this major? So this is perhaps very good for freshmen and sophomores to start thinking about what sort of jobs might they get with their degree. And it's not always so clear, right? And it's probably not a job that we've grown up learning about, like a firefighter. It's not always, or a doctor. If you're not being these very visible professions, where are you going to get a job? Well, what can I do with this major can help students think about it. So business is one of the top degrees that we produce at Sac State. And here's, I clicked through a couple of things, and here's what this website looks like. So it can be really fast for students to kind of breeze through. If you were studying business, what areas could you go into? You could go into management. What kind of employers would you work for? There's some bulleted lists here. And then there are different areas, right? So here's management. If you don't want to be in management, maybe you want to be in sales. If you don't want to be in sales, maybe you want to be in insurance. Oh, maybe I never thought about insurance. You could go into banking. And so this is just giving students a really introductory look at what some jobs could be. And then as you scroll down, there's, general information and these links to other websites and professional associations for students who might be a little more interested in specific information about their career. So maybe juniors, I would say, might end up looking more at this. Now, if you got some ambitious freshmen who are already thinking ahead, they might also like to go looking around. The last thing I wanted to point out to you is how to make an appointment. And students will have to click on this. So the first thing is instructions. Really don't think they need instructions. They can just, as long as they're signed in with their single sign-on, if they click on make an appointment with staff, what will pop up is this screen, I think. So they'll have to sign in, and then it will ask them to make an appointment. So that's a little bit about the Career Center. I just wanted to kind of put that on your radar, mostly because of the research I've been doing, like I said, on how students can maximize their return on their education investment quickly in their early career if they work with the Career Center to get experience in their field before they graduate. Good reminder. The next service that I just wanted to remind you about and remind your students about is student health and counseling. So student health and counseling provides free, the reason I'm talking about it today is they provide free mental health, free therapy to our students. They have individual appointments and they have group therapy virtually. And I'm going to put that link in the chat. Now you can kind of see some services, but again, if you want to make an appointment, students have to be logged in to do that. So I'm going to share my screen and show you what that looks like when they would go on student health and counseling. Here we go. So here's student health and counseling. And they'll pull up this website and it's kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of boxes to look at. But as you scroll down, you'll see under Get Help, there's something that says Schedule an Appointment. And students will click on that and it'll bring up their single sign-on. That will be the first thing that happens. And then they'll have to authenticate. I'm sure you've all seen Duo lately, right? I know this has been frustrating for some parents who might pay their students' bills. And then you confirm your birthday and it just takes you through, the appointment process. It's really simple. And the reason I mention it is we still have a lot of students with anxiety, and a lot of the students I've been talking with right now are experiencing a lot of stress from midterms, and they're starting to experience burnout. And we saw this last semester, and this is interesting and important. Students burned out too fast in a virtual semester. What do I mean by that? That means that their resilience really diminished in spring semester. So we actually saw a lot of students fail or do more poorly than they normally would academically because they gave up. So in person, they would have, just talked to their professor after class, or maybe turned to a student sitting next to them and said, I'm really struggling with this, and gotten some advice. But students just walked away from their computers. And then once they got a poor score on one test, they stopped trying, or a bad score on one paper, they stopped trying. Now on the faculty side, all of the faculty are being told right now in a virtual semester, we have to be understanding. You have to provide multiple avenues for students to learn and to try. You have to be communicative. And so faculty are trying to be flexible in accepting revisions of papers or creating extra credit opportunities and things like that. So the reason I mention it is if you see your students, or maybe your students have friends who are getting kind of burnout right now around midterms, or they got a bad test grade or a worse grade than they expected. Maybe they got a C, they were expecting a B. A C is fine. Keep going. Just, put it behind you. If you can really help students work on that mental resilience, they really need it from here through the end of the semester. we don't want to see what happened in spring happen again. It's still hard, right? No one enjoys being in a virtual semester. I don't think it's most people's first choice. So student health and counseling is there as a resource. And this was, this is not anecdotal. This was widespread at Sac State in the spring. Okay, so I think that covers it for our important updates. And I want to, of course, let you have time to ask questions and do a check-in, see how it's going. Are your students talking to you about midterms? How's everybody doing? Any questions?
I didn't even know there were midterms, so I'm glad I'm online, so I know what questions to ask.
Okay. Yeah,
And I'm not Jake either, just so you know. My son uses this computer also.
Okay. What's your name?
Pam.
Hi, Pam. Thanks for joining.
I have a daughter, Rachel, freshman. And,
Oh, okay.
And I'm very envious of my friends or my sister who has kids in school, and they go to parent weekend. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't hit any traffic going to her bedroom for parent weekend for college.
Oh, well, did you know we're going to have a virtual family reception?
I believe that is a Saturday at 3:30, and I've registered for it.
All right, great. It's, it's not as awesome as our reception that we often host at Zocalo, where we rent the entire back patio, which is super fun. But,
next year
it'll do for this year.
I just wanted to say, I have my son Patrick is an engineering major, and he's a transfer student. So he's studying from home, going to Sac State right now. My daughter, who's also a junior, has been up there for 2 years. So this is her 3rd year. But Patrick, this year, my point is, because the professors, as you say, both of them have had very good experiences with professors being very available during office hours, being flexible. With my son had a best friend commit suicide last year. He's still struggling with that gravely, but in the class that he has, it's Japanese culture, and there's a whole bunch of books and videos he needs to watch that have that in it. He had a conversation with his professor, and the professor gave him alternate things to watch and read, and said, don't read chapter 3, and so I just am very grateful that they're taking the time to listen. So I did, you probably only hear things when they go wrong. And I just want to say that with both kids, they've been very blessed that they are proactive. They do talk to professors, but it really does help. We try to train them to do that. But I was really impressed with this professor for just, first of all, his first question was, Patrick, are you seeking mental health help? And he is. But he said, okay, now let's work on what you can do and maintain your grade in this class. So I just want to, whatever you guys are doing, the professors are listening, at least most of them. I'm sure not all of them are. But the experience with Patrick, they also, in another class, the teacher had to go do a full-on investigation because he, on a test, found some, what did he call it, academic dishonesty. And there's a full-blown investigation on Chegg and on something else that has had to do that. So wow, that was a big thing. And all the emails that the professor, thank goodness my son's not involved, but God bless the parents whose kids are, because I don't know what's going to happen to them. But I'm just very impressed with the difference in the professors between last semester with my daughter, and just kind of how everything, just because I teach too. We didn't know what we were doing. And they seem to have really grasped this experience, and they're trying to help their students as much as possible. So that's it.
Oh, Debbie, I really appreciate you sharing. Thank you so much. We did have about 900 faculty complete training over the summer via the Center for Teaching and Learning. trying to help them better understand and utilize our virtual instruction tools. You brought up an interesting point about academic dishonesty. So that's a really nice way of saying cheating. And we just I had an update recently from the conduct officer, and cheating is through the roof right now. Like the conduct cases there's a lot of them for academic dishonesty. And it seems like, you know, in a virtual environment, we haven't quite figured out, or maybe students haven't quite figured out that we do have the technology to track what they're writing. And if they just copy paste something from the internet and they post it in Canvas, we have these tools where they really quickly scan and they can match so easily to know that this person didn't write this. It's already out there on the internet. And so it's really easy for us to catch the students. I think the students maybe don't know. Ingrid, you probably have these tools at your campus, yeah? Yeah, turnitin.com and yeah. So in case, I mean, yeah, you never know who's doing what. For the first case of cheating, you know, students don't, I think it takes something like 3 times of getting caught before they're looking at something serious like expulsion, which is a big deal because they end up being, I probably shouldn't speculate on what that is, but it takes a few times before students get to a super serious consequence. The first time they have a conversation with a conduct officer about how they were caught, what it means to cheat, and then they have to do a sort of reflection assignment. Mm-hmm. What other questions, comments do we have?
So this is
Hi,
Linda Oberstein. Hi, this is my first time actually managing to make it on a Friday at 11-ish. My question is about housing for next semester. I don't know if I can, is it okay to just pick a topic?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Well, it's about housing in general, and about where to find, or maybe you can just tell me, specific things that have been put in place regarding COVID, and like how much do the kids who are living there in a dorm by themselves, in a room by themselves, I assume, interact with anybody? And is it even worth considering sending my child there? She's a freshman. She's home, being a freshman.
What city do you live in?
We live in Foster City, in the Bay Area.
So I'm going to answer your question. COVID protections are pretty strict. Students live, for the most part, they live alone. I don't know about dining, if they're dining indoors yet. I think whatever the county guidelines are, they're adhering to those. And I think we're seeing a spike in Sacramento right now, the second wave. And so it's interesting because the COVID guidelines are definitely interfering with students' ability to interact with other students who are there. Right. It's a little bit based on the students' personal risk tolerance and their own desires. So I've heard both things. And I know we have at least one parent, Ingrid, lives in Southern California, and her daughter lives on campus. And so she can talk to you about her experience. But as an administrator, what I've seen is there are plenty of students who are willing to not observe the rules because they want to see people and they want to be social. There are also a large amount of students who are isolated in their rooms and kind of wondering about the experience. There are RAs, resident advisors, and there are also residence life coordinators who are professionals with master's degrees who live there And the RAs are supposed to go check in with the students, make sure they see human being every day, invite them to do socially distanced activities. A couple of the activities I recently heard about that I think are both really great is one is the housing staff is giving everybody that lives on campus a plant and to care for. And anyone whose plant is still alive at the end of the semester gets a prize.
That's great.
Cute, right? And then
Yeah.
they're also looking to host a cornhole tournament outside in November. So they have to present, so it's socially distanced, right? You could be far away from each other and play cornhole, but it still gets a whole bunch of people kind of doing something fun and social. But what housing has to do is submit a plan to the president's office saying, we're going to host this event and here's how it's going to be maintained within the county guidelines. And then the plan could be approved or could be denied, which is like one of the reasons that the well has not been open for athletic activity. So there's stuff they're trying. I think that the social element is definitely lacking, but I think the other important piece is this sort of coming of age experience where students move out of the house and they live on their own and experience independence. And I think it kind of depends on your family, but if you've had that narrative, the kid's life where you turn 18 and you go to college and that's being interrupted right now, perhaps that's something to consider. We have a 18-year-old who's in her first quarter at Cal Poly virtually from our house. And same question, the cost is high to live on campus.
Right.
Are you really going to be meeting people? Do you want to meet people? Do you not? And then this personal growth piece as well. Ingrid, did you want to talk? Can you share a little bit about what's happening with your daughter?
One of the things that I think is positive, I think by her being alone in her room, not that she didn't always get good grades, but I think that college didn't interrupt that because she is isolated in her room. But having to go get her food and bring it back to her room and, go to Target and plan her budget and, I need gas for my car. Those kind of things she can't really say, hey, drive my car so you can put gas in or something like that. She's got to figure it out or stay at the dorm or maybe one day have people that can ride with her and they can help pay for gas. But for now, I think what's one of the things that helped bring her out of the room was the sorority. They did all of their beginning activities online, but now they're able to, socially distance and go out for coffee or go out to lunch somewhere that has a patio. I think there was a Saturday they went to like an Apple Hill. And so it's outside, but they could still see each other and they all got to take their pictures outside instead of a Zoom picture and meet the people face to face that they've been talking to. And so that when they started their, initiation type things, they weren't fully online, they could say, I met her, I see her when they say, who your big is or whatever, you've actually met that person and maybe you've learned something about their life that you can put towards your guessing games that they play. But yeah, a lot of it is still online, but now she knows some people because of that. I do know they're pretty strict. I remember moving in where only 2 people could be in the elevator at a time, so even 3 of us moving her couldn't go in the elevator together, or whatever. And everybody had the wristband and everything. And then after she was moved in, we couldn't go back to the dorm, which is weird. When you think of how you moved in or how your college days were, people could walk in and out of your dorm all day, as long as they checked in up front or whatever. So that was kind of weird to just get the one in and one out. And then you're like, I can't help her set up or anything. It's just dump it and go. But yeah, she's by herself. She has her computer and a lot of the activities and games that they do in the dorm, they do them virtually. So she doesn't see her RA much. He must be not very social, but she has made friends with other RAs. And I think one of them is actually in the sorority. And she's an RA. So I thought she wouldn't meet anyone. So I guess I'm grateful that slowly she met people. And I think at the beginning they said something about you could have someone visit, like if they're at the door of the dorm, like sitting at the door, and you're inside, you could visit that way if you found your one person that you really wanted to hang out with or something. I remember hearing something like that, but at that point she didn't really know anyone. So she didn't really do that part of it. But maybe later on she'll have someone that wants to stop by and they know to sit at the door and she stays inside to keep their distance and stuff. But yeah, mainly she walks over and gets her food and she brings it back because I know they're not eating inside. But you can eat outside, like on the patio area and stuff like that. If you want to try to be social in a way, they have tables out there and they have lots of grass areas, I guess, if you bother to have a blanket or something. So, and then there's safety ambassadors there. So, I mean, there's a lot of things there to keep them safe and they're not shy about keeping them safe. And, but she's a little bit, it's interesting. She's a theater person and she's outgoing, she sings, she plays music. But as far as meeting people, you'd say she's shy. She'll hide in that room if she has to, But, I think it's a good experience for her, even though it's not the same. Having her have to budget herself and hopefully soon find a job so that she can not feel as, that would be her biggest stress, I guess. Luckily, she has a meal plan, so she shouldn't be stressed. But, when they want to go get coffee or something, they need to have their own money. So anyways, I think it's a good experience for her. And she actually came to visit. So you want to come say hi?
I guess. Hi.
She came down home to vote and hang out with some friends and say hi. She got tested. She's negative for her COVID. So I said, okay, you can come in.
Can I ask
Anyways,
which sorority? Can I
Say hi
ask,
real quick.
can I ask which sorority she's in?
Gamma Phi Beta.
Okay. My daughter also pledged, but by Mu. So
Okay.
anyway. No, that's very helpful. Because really, I mean, I know the university is following guidelines, and I'm not really worried about, I guess, the guidelines that are in place. It's more the question of what the young adults are doing, whether or not they choose to follow those, or not choose, but I'm sure there are people that follow and that don't follow those rules. And if you're a rule follower, as my daughter is it an experience that's worth it? So that perspective is very helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and I saw you, Haley, I saw you put that in the chat, the policies and things.
Yes. Some people do really want to know, like, oh, what cleaner are you using? And, so all that's, on there. But, Linda, just, to step outside the Sac State role for a minute, as a parent, we're right there. Like, I can see my stepdaughter, she's so, she just got her first job. She's so bright, and she has friends who did go. Two of her really close friends also went to Cal Poly, her immediate friend group, and they live in the same town, and they moved down, and she didn't. And one of them got COVID, got quarantined in the, on campus housing. And it kind of wasn't great for about however long she was there, 10 days, kind of lonely, right? And then she was done and back to regular life. And I think she's really, that friend's name is Allison. I think Allison is really enjoying living on her own and living in a different city than the one that she's grown up in. And I think that her other friend who moved away is also doing some like individuating. She's not talking a lot with her friends from Folsom. And that happens, right? When you go away to college, sometimes you meet new people, you explore who and how you can be in a different way. You get entirely on your own where you don't have those influences of what people expect you to be, right? And that's part of that development. Now, how much are they really, do they go out and explore on their own? And as a side note, Linda, I think in Sacramento, you kind of need a car. Honestly, especially with everything happening in COVID, and if she's a rule follower, there's plenty to explore. There's great hiking and lots of things to see and do, but people who are used to a more like densely urban area where there's tons of opportunities in a small walking, space. There's some of that in Midtown Sacramento, but it's nice to have a car. So that's another consideration for you.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're pretty sure she's staying here next semester. We'll see what happens next year.
Yeah. I think we're making that choice. Well, we're trying to let her make her own choice. Yeah.
It's tough. It's really, it's hard. You have that peer pressure, even if you're a rule follower. And I know, I've heard lots of universities do really well at isolating, quarantining and testing but it's, college is hard as a freshman to begin with. Do you follow the rules? Well, you're 18, you go to a party, you have a drink. It's not like, anyway, it could go on, but yeah.
Sure.
I think
Well-
too, it's harder for people that went there and some of their schoolmates went there, like if they're from the area,
Yeah.
they know people already, whereas my daughter went, she didn't know anybody. Well, she knew one girl in basketball, but I guess that came from her school, but she had her basketball bubble of friends. So they really didn't, they weren't close friends at their high school either way.
Yeah.
And so they didn't really connect even at Sac State.
Yeah. And my daughter, now she knows her sisters. Not only did she not know anybody, but we've never actually been to campus. So, which is, I'm sure, true of many kids, many freshmen this year, but hopefully she'll be there before she graduates.
I know.
That reminded me two thoughts I had that you might be interested in. One is the last update we had in our division, the people who manage housing, the woman who runs residential life programming, she's, her idea to do the plants. She mentioned that she's considering doing an education outreach campaign to the students who live on campus, reminding them that we actually want to have activities for you, but we cannot because the state says we cannot. So we have to abide by the law. Because students I think that maybe their students don't always pay attention to the information that some people do, right? Like maybe older adults about why are we doing things. So perhaps to remind them, we wish that we were providing a more normal campus social experience. The second thing that you reminded me about was I taught a summer bridge class, 2 classes over the summer, 2 sections, and they both had about 120 students apiece. So 240 students coming in, brand new freshmen to Sac State. And one of the topics was about collaboration and how to be a good collaborator, basically. And there's takeaways for, future career. And there's applicability with like volunteering in your community or within your own household. But really what the conversation and the thoughts we wanted to provoke for the students is when they have group projects and they're working with other students. How are they respectful? How are they all contributing? How are they all listening and hearing and not interrupting and producing something that's greater than each of them individually? Because you have to do that so much in the world after college. And I presumed had to practice that starting in high school. So interesting because these students had kind of the high schools, some of them operate on trimesters. I don't know if that's the case for everyone, but since basically March, I was working with these 240 students. None of them had group project experience in a virtual setting. And they also couldn't really recall working on a group project together. So I assumed everyone's worked on a group project, right? You're freshmen in college, 240 students. The examples that they gave came from sports. I was shocked. Just in terms of like, these people are going into the, group projects in college are definitely going to happen. In the workforce, you're going to have to work with other people.
That is shocking.
Yeah, Ingrid, is your daughter still sitting right there? Are you having any group projects in the virtual world?
Have you done group projects in the virtual world?
Kind of. They've like put us in breakout rooms and we work on them together. Like for my bio lab, we do all of our lab assignments together that way. And then we also like text through Instagram and GroupMe to do our work. But yeah, that's how we do it.
And then high
But
school?
not like here's a,
Oh, in high school as well. we do
okay.
it.
Mine
Okay.
is, my daughter's in one right now that she's doing. And Ingrid, our daughters know each other because they're both in Gamma Phi.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
My Erin's a junior, so she's running for VP of something right now, but
Something.
yeah, social something, I'm sure. And that has also saved her as well. But she's actually in a full-on, here's your group and here's the project, and outside of class, organize it. And what's nice is she wants a good grade in it. So she's kind of, which is outside of her personality before college, become kind of the leader of the group. Hey guys, we got to get this together. And what's really nice is she said, last week I tried to be nice. This week I kind of tried to kick their ass. Next week, my plan is, because she doesn't want to get a bad grade when people aren't doing it, but she doesn't want to do all the work. And that is a huge growing for her. Not that she would not have done her work, but to just step up and go, hey, I'm going to be in charge of this because this is wrong. But she is having to do one of those. My son hasn't yet, but she is.
I can also second that. My daughter had the same situation. I'm not sure if she had the group projects in high school with the after the pandemic started, but getting the group together at Sac State, she was patient, and then she talked to me about it. And sorry, I have a Velcro dog. But she said, I just set dates and said, we're going to get together. And, it was on the weekend, and it was a great learning experience. It's hard for me to sit back, but she did it on her own. And as far as I know, they were all successful.
That's great. Well, we've been having some good conversations about students getting together with other students, and some, we do have a lot of parents who watch our recordings. And so I put sorority and fraternity information in the chat, and there's also still about 230 clubs that are operating virtually. Well, any other questions or anything on your mind?
I think they're all looking forward to Thanksgiving and Christmas already. So I hear a lot of
They
Definitely.
appreciate the opportunity to communicate and hear some of the other experiences too.
Well, please remind your students that their registration dates for fall will be coming up. Registration opens November 16th, starting with people who are the closest to graduating, and then go all the way through December 11th. But the Thanksgiving break, sometimes people take their eye off the ball and forget. So just as a reminder, they might be registering in there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, everybody. I'll stick around if anyone has a couple questions. But that's it for our updates, and look forward to talking with you again in 2 weeks. It's a recurring meeting, so it's the same link.
Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Tyros. Bye.
Thank you, Haley.
Great to see you, everyone. Ingrid, always awesome to see you. Bye, Debbie.
Bye.